Right then, I think that's probably most people here. So, good morning. My name is Paul Shaffer, and welcome to today's webinar. I coordinate the work that we do in CIRIA on sustainable water management, and part of that work obviously involves a focus on sustainable drainage and blue-green infrastructure. So, we're delivering this webinar as part of the work that we do on the susdrain initiative, which is primarily to promote good practice. Throughout the slides, you should see some reference to the susdrain website. So if you want some further information on BEST and also other case studies there, that's the best place to find some. So like most series projects, they're not possible without some funders, and this is the list of our partners and supporters for today. So thanks to them for making today and the susdrain project possible. You also see Stantec's included in those list of supporters. So how's today going to work? As you probably found out, you've all been muted. So sorry about that. It's a lot easier when there's less voices to deal with. So, but you can ask questions, and we really encourage you to ask those questions. So hopefully you will see on a control panel there will be a pull-out box or dialog box for questions. So if you could put your questions into those, I will try and field those and pass those on to our presenters later on in the session. And we also may have an opportunity, depending how we're doing for time, to deal with the questions after the presentation, but there'll certainly be an opportunity for Q&A at the end of this, and a recording will be available. So what we're trying to do for the first time on a webinar that I've been involved in is we're trying to also run a few polls so we can get some engagement. Hopefully that will work, and we will give you 20 or 30 seconds to respond. So it's also an opportunity to see if you're still paying attention. So moving on, in terms of the what we're trying to do is obviously primarily promote good practice. And for the last couple of years, we've been running schemes to promote that good practice through the susdrain awards and also a few nominating sus champions. So if you have got a good scheme in the back of your pocket, or you know of one and you can find someone to provide some information for an entry, please let us know about that. And also every now and then we come across someone that inspires us, influences us to deliver SUDs. So what we're trying to do is showcase some good SUD schemes and also celebrate some champions. So if you know of either a good SUD scheme or a good SUDs champion, please let us know. We've extended the deadline, recognizing that over the last 6 weeks, the world's changed somewhat, and priorities have also changed. So we're definitely going to be having an announcement and an award ceremony on the 16th of July, which is very likely to be virtual, and we'll have opportunities to showcase the shortlisted entries then, and also go into a bit more detail later in the autumn, with hopefully an opportunity to have some kind of social gathering if we're allowed to. So making BEST better, for those of you completely new to BEST and the project, BEST stands for the Benefit Estimation Tool, and it's CIRIA's free tool to help identify and value the benefits from blue-green infrastructure, which includes SUDs and NFM. So in terms of the program, I'm obviously going through the welcome and introduction, and then we will move on to presentations from our experts. Got Bruce Halton from Stantec, who's an economist, and will provide an overview of BEST and the changes in this version, which was updated last autumn. And also we've got Chris from Stantec, who will use BEST in anger on Excel spreadsheet and demonstrate how BEST can be used. We then move on to a recording of Bruce and Viviana Levy from the Environment Agency, talking through a case study that was applied on a scheme to value habitat creation. That will be the recording, and as I say, if you are listening via your phone, you will probably won't be able to hear the audio. So if there's a way of you switching that through to your computer audio, that would be good. And as I said, there should be opportunities for questions and answers, so please type those questions in. These are the timescales we have here. Who knows with the technology whether we'll be able to stick to those timescales, but I can assure you we will finish at 12:30. So the aims of the webinar is to provide an overview of BEST and talk about the changes that have taken place in last year and more recently in autumn, and also outline some of our aspirations to take BEST forward for the next couple of years. We also want to provide you with an opportunity to understand how BEST can be used to value the benefits and help with some of your decisions and discussions around funding and partnership funding. And we've got a few case studies, obviously, to provide an overview. So, as I said before, most of CIRIA's projects are funded and by external organisations, and we've got some funds here from majority of the English and Welsh water companies, Highways England and Environment Agency. And this is probably based on a project that we got funded in 2015, and I go through that timeline in a bit, but that was also funded by the Greater London Authority and the JBA Trust. There are opportunities to get involved and support this project, and if you are interested, please do contact us and we provide you an opportunity to do that when we send out the post webinar feedback form. So where have we come from and where have we got to? So I suppose really we started looking at BEST in 2013, and this is really around trying to think about how do we actually take forward sustainable drainage. At the time, key elements were coming out around managing community engagement better, but also understanding the business model to try and get these things funded. So we thought we needed to support that discussion and decision making around the business model. And we recognized at the time that partnership funding and trying to amass funds from different organizations was quite tricky, and that the benefits that could be derived from SUDS and blue-green infrastructure often were accrued to different people and different organizations. So we thought that we needed to provide a framework for that conversation to happen and provide a common currency where people were just talking about the benefits in a way that they were understood, and we focused on that being money. So in 2013, we started on the project with extensive engagement and consultation. We did a pretty comprehensive, at that time, literature review, which I think we probably got 300 data sources, and since then it's expanded to around 500. The first version of BEST was delivered in 2015, and with subsequent updates in terms of looking at scenarios on and uncertainty in 2016 and 2017, we always recognized that BEST would be as good as the data that we had in it. So we were planning to update it with valuation figures, look at methodologies, and take that forward. So in 2018, we thought that we'd both look at the values database again, but also think about how the approaches that we got for SUDS could be applied to natural flood management, and we thought that this would bring in greater relevance to blue-green infrastructure. And at that time, the evidence sources that we looked at grew to around 500. So not only have we improved the evidence base at that time, we've also improved the look of the field, because it is fundamentally an Excel spreadsheet, as you will see when Chris goes through that. But we also wanted to make sure that we took the Excel spreadsheet as far as we could in terms of making it easy to use. And we want to make another leap, step change in that in the next version, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So what we're really looking to do is convert the BEST spreadsheet tool into an online application, which also incorporates GIS capabilities, so we can reduce some of the challenges of finding data and also improve the presentation of benefits over a spatial area. So BEST in use. So since 2015, the use has steadily grown. We still think we've got some work to do. At one stage, we were considering an acronym for BEST. We did have BEAST, in there at one stage, and that became fairly synonymous with it being a beast to use, and that's primarily because it contains so much information and could do so much. So we've now addressed that. We're looking at usability and the interface, and we hope to improve that later. So the 2015 version was downloaded about 10,000 times until last year, and then since September, the latest version has been downloaded about 300 times. Looking to the future, we know that the majority of English and Welsh companies are going to be using BEST to underpin their work on drainage and wastewater management plans, and we also know that it's been used by local authorities to underpin their work on partnership working. It's been used and reviewed internationally with usage in Europe and Australia. And one thing that all comes back from this use and reviews, particularly from academia, is that it's robust and thought to be one of the best approaches to assess blue-green infrastructure. So we're comfortable it supported greater awareness and benefit assessments of blue-green infrastructure. We just want to make sure that it's easier to use, and we also can incorporate GIS. So the phases of the recent iteration of BEST are that the first phase, as I mentioned, was the engagement and review of evidence. We looked at new methodologies and the evidence base around natural flood management. Last year and in September, we released phase 2. We did start out thinking this would be based on natural capital, but as consultation engagement increased, we moved this more onto a 5 capitals approach, which includes all the other capitals like natural, social capital, and human capital. Phase 3, which we're currently in the phase of fundraising and have an application being looked at by Innovate UK, is to convert BEST into an online application, which improves usability and also incorporates GIS. So that's the end of my introduction, and hopefully the presentations from Bruce and Chris will provide BEST in some context. So we've got our first poll here, which we'll be running, and basically we'll be you will have an opportunity to respond to that. Okay. So if we give you 20 seconds or so to respond to that, that would be great. Okay, over half of you have voted now, so that's great. And 65% of you have heard of BEST, so that's good. That is good. We will be asking some more searching questions a little bit later.